I got a confession to make. I really like PragerU. I don't like them because I agree with what they're pushing, but goddamn, they're fucking entertaining to watch. If you don't know what PragerU is, here's a little rundown. Basically, there's this man, Dennis Prager. And Dennis Prager one day was like, I would like to brainwash kids. He really doesn't like the way public schools function in the United States. Which is a fair point, because you could say that they don't really encourage critical thinking and that they're not really preparing the youth for the economic life. But these are not the problem why Dennis Prager has a problem with public schools. He hates them because they're not patriotic enough, they're not pro-religious. You know, he really doesn't like separation of public school and church, and probably other nonsense reasons. So he decided to create PragerU, a propaganda tool designed for pushing for social conservatism and libertarian economy. And because it pushed for libertarian economics, PragerU is funded by fractured billionaires. I know that PragerU can be seen by kids in private school in the United States, but a kid also in public school can see this video by a teacher who think this is like factual. However, when you know that this is propaganda, you can just enjoy how dumb they are, and they're really funny. I'm more of the fan of the classic where they show one person and they talk like for like 5 minutes and there's a little slideshow. I don't know, it's what I prefer. Now they do other stuff and I'm not super interested, but you know, it's also just bullshit propaganda. And the video we're going to watch is I've learned more at McDonald's than in college. This 5-minute video makes it super obvious that PragerU is funded by, like I said, fractured billionaire who want to push an economic model who benefit them. This should be fun. Let's go.
Here's what I was told
miss.
during my freshman orientation at Haverford College. Ask for help when you need it. Speak up when you feel uncomfortable. Place your own well-being above all other concerns.
Okay.
In short, the school was ready to protect me from any personal slights or hurt feelings I might suffer. What counted as a personal slight or similar offense was up to me to define. This surprised me. It surprised me because at McDonald's, where I worked before I started school, acting in this way would have probably cost me my job, a job I needed in order to go to college. The most important thing at McDonald's was not how I felt, but how my customers felt. It was my job and the job of everyone working there to make others, namely the customers, happy.
So, yeah, this entire video is just trashing college for, you know, college is this place for pussy. They don't prepare you for the harshness of life. But McDonald's, a fast food chain, my life has been enriched by it. You gotta think broadly and you gotta ask, why does PragerU does this video? And because they're funded by billionaires, they want to discourage as much people as possible to not go to college. If you have a college diploma, you're less likely to work in low-skilled jobs. Now, low-skilled jobs is a term that I really don't like, but basically it means any job that only require a high school diploma, or not even that sometimes. And a lot of these jobs are going to be in a private super corporation, like, you know, fast food chains, a big factory. And the owners of these corporations, they really like having endless workers that can potentially work in their company. Think about it. If you have a limited number of workers, well, then when these workers are going to like ask for better working condition, if you don't have any workers who are unemployed and are ready to take their place, well, then you kind of have to play balls with the worker because you can't just get rid of them. But if you have an endless amount of workers who can replace them, then you're simply going to fire the old workers who complain because, you know, somebody can replace you, so fuck you, bye-bye. During the Industrial Revolution, this is exactly what you saw. Owners of big corporations, they had endless supplies of workers they could just use. They were able to give shit wage, shit working condition, really not safe. And if you were a worker and you complain, then they just fire your ass. This is when workers realized that if they all complain, you know, protest and going on strike, then, you know, now the big owner have to take them more seriously. But yeah, this is one of the reasons. The second one, why they want to discourage people to go to college. I don't know if you know, but when you go to university, you study some shit. And some of the shit you can study is related to the society we live in. And that includes our economic system. So college is going to look at the economic system and see what's wrong and what we can do better. Because you hear a lot of conservative complaining that the lefty has infiltrated the college campuses, they're now all communism or some shit. I will say that if you talk about social issue, I think it's fair to say that universities are pretty left-leaning, but the economy that is taught in most universities is still pretty dominated by neoliberalism. Sure, you can find some socialist professor, but for the most part, it's going to glorify the current system that we live in. So yeah, these are the reasons why this video is made. It's pretty obvious what they're trying to make, but you know, they show these videos to kids who are gullible and they will see that and be like, there's some wisdom in that.
That meant that if there was a problem with an order, I had to deal with it. The issues weren't complicated. It was usually something like a missing piece of cheese from a McDouble or whipped cream on a milkshake when they hadn't wanted any. Whatever it was, I had to listen patiently and mentally take notes so that I could report the relevant details to someone who could actually correct the problem. Oddly enough, customers were not interested in carefully crafting their complaints in such a way as to spare my feelings. They were in a rush to get back to work, or they were dealing with their screaming kids, or they had calculated the cost of their meal down to the cent out of necessity and could not afford a mistake. And they had a right to have their meal served the way they ordered it. If a mistake was made, we fixed it as quickly as possible and didn't talk back. Even if I believed the customer had misunderstood some aspect of their order and was actually the one at fault, I was instructed to give the person the benefit of the doubt. Their feelings mattered more than mine. At McDonald's, there was no trigger warning for when a customer was about to start yelling, no safe spaces to go to when the restaurant would get so busy that I barely had time to breathe between orders. When a group of men in the drive-thru would whistle and catcall me as they pulled away, there was no university administrator for me to run to for soothing and reassurance. And from these experiences, the good, the bad, and the flat-out ugly, I grew. Or, to use a word one doesn't see much anymore, I matured.
I like that the video, they're not trying to convince you that working at McDonald's is a good time. They're pretty fucking fair and saying, yeah, no, it's fucking awful. Look, kids, living in capitalism kind of sucks. So instead of going to university and learning critical thinking and all that jazz, just pick a job that sucks and, you know, you're gonna be miserable all your life. Thanks, Prager U. But in all seriousness, the lady is not wrong. You can learn a lot from awful job. But that doesn't mean that you should tolerate what's going on there. It's kind of the same of people who had an abusive relationship. You can be in a bad relationship for like 5 years, and through that you can learn a lot from yourself. You can learn to set boundaries in your relationship and also respecting yourself. But even with all that, that doesn't make it that we should tolerate abusive spouse. They are still bad and you should try to get the fuck out of the relationship as soon as possible. And it's the same with bad jobs. If you stay longer, it's gonna take a toll on you. And that lady seemed to have stayed in McDonald's for far too long. Is it just me or she seemed really emotionally numb? Hey, you wanna know what else you can learn from working at McDonald's? You can be like, I'm never working at McDonald's again. You know, here in Canada, a really big industry is Tim Hortons. It's funny because I think a lot of outside of Canada think that like Tim Hortons is some big national pride or something. Like us Canadians, we're like super proud of Tim Hortons. But I can tell you, I think most Canadians don't give a fuck about Tim Hortons. I really think they're dog shit business who treat their employee really poorly. I haven't worked in Tim Hortons, but I know a lot of people who have, and like really a lot. And believe me, not one of them could have told me that working at Tim Hortons was a positive experience. They were all like, fuck this job, I'm glad I'm out.
In ways that didn't inconvenience anyone, or draw unnecessary attention to myself, or let my personal problems interfere with the work that had to be done. In short, I had a job to do, and people counted on me to do it. Had I complained to my McDonald's manager that I became anxious when the restaurant was crowded, or that hearing complaints from customers made me nervous, he would have politely handed me my paycheck and shown me the door.
I just realized, even their logic in this video don't make any sense. PragerU is bashing university because they want to make students comfortable and it's gonna make them weak to the harshness of life. But they praise McDonald's for having this client is always right. The client is always right. Even if the client is annoying and disrespectful, you still have to provide good services and make them comfortable in our establishment. But when you are a university student, you know, you don't work there. You're not an employee. You are a client. It's really different than being a McDonald's client, but that's what it is. When you think about it, university is way more hardcore than McDonald's because you pay a fuck ton of money to be in college and you have to do some tests. And the tests are stressful, they're hard, And if you succeed the test, well, congratulations, you succeed, but you are in debt now. But if you fail, not only you don't pass, but you're also in debt. So they don't give you the money back if you fail. They keep it and that's it. Contrast this with being a McDonald's client. You can basically act like a baby and the staff has to put up with your bullshit. This client is always right mentality, it's really just present in North America. It's really not a thing in Europe. One of my favorite shows is Hell Kitchen, and my favorite moments is when Gordon Ramsay is just fucking talking trash with the clients. It is filmed in America, so the clients who goes to complain to Gordon, they have this mentality of, oh, I am the client, I am right, I am the king. So he has to listen to me and cater to my every needs. But you have Gordon Ramsay, born in England, and he was trained by a famous French chef, I think. So really, he does not give a flying fuck about what they have to say. He will just tear them a new assholes.
Hi, how are you? Great, thank you. We've been sitting here and... It's the Red Kitchen, Chef. You're waiting on a Wellington and one bass, yes? Well, I'm deeply sorry, but right now we're about 7 tables behind. That doesn't do much for me. Yeah, right. Can I just say you do fuck all for me either? What do you want me? You do nothing for me either. I just don't understand why it's so difficult to serve some people their food. Are you that arrogant? You haven't got a clue what's going on behind me? It seems like you have a lot of amateur sous chefs. Right. Finally, your head's coming outside your arsehole. Now sit down, you fucking dick. What an arsehole.
So that's it for this video. There's not much more I can say. It's just PragerU being PragerU, just pushing bad mentality to children. Thank you very much if you've been sticking this long, and have a good fucking day.